hearing on Emergency Ordinance 2021-01. Dan, could you give me the introduction? Oh, I see it, the introduction. This ordinance was introduced on January 12th, 21, and I would like a motion for us to open up this hearing. Is there a motion?
Councilman Harder will make that motion. Okay.
This is Councilmember Mendoza. I'll second that.
Okay, Councilmember Harding in the second. Councilmember Mendoza. Any objections? All right, this hearing is now open. We will start this hearing with an overview from Mr. Barr, indicating, well, you know what? We're going to start this meeting with a conversation with Chief Stone, and then Mr. Barr can move forward and give us a little more details as to what is in the ordinance itself. So, Chief, can you give us sort of an update on what the thoughts, some of the thoughts were in relationship to us revisiting the time of day of our businesses in the community?
Yeah, certainly. In recent weeks, we've looked at the operation of businesses in the town, particularly those that operate on a 24-hour basis. And we don't currently have very many that do that. And in recent years have had very few. Going back a number of years, within the past 10 years, we've primarily had two businesses operating overnight, not necessarily 7 days a week. We've had the IHOP, International House of Pancakes, which was open 24 hours on the weekends. And the McDonald's also open 24 hours on the weekends for drive-through only. Both of those locations have had criminal activity, serious criminal activity on occasion. There was a homicide at the McDonald's within the last 10 years, I believe 2017, something along those lines, and several serious incidents at the IHOP, particularly involving fights. And I believe there was at least a serious assault, stabbing, and that may have turned into a homicide. That goes back a few years ago. IHOP has a stipulation that to be open on all night on the weekends, that they have to hire a Maryland certified police officer to work security there. McDonald's is drive-through only. They do not have that stipulation. In the past month, we've had a 24-hour convenience store come into town, at least with the proposed 24 hours operation. I don't know that they're at a 24-hour level at this point, but as the chief of police, that's a concern. With criminal activity in the commercial areas, it's usually at 24-hour establishments. And I spoke with the mayor and about perhaps regulating those hours. I did do a brief contacting other areas and just see what the crime activity is at 24-hour establishments. And I looked at 5 24-hour convenience stores within a mile or so or within a couple miles of the town of Colmar Manor, all of which are a mile or so from the county line. And on average, for an entire year, I had to go back 2 years. 2020 doesn't give justice to statistics. They're all askew because of COVID. So I went back to 2019, and just on average of between the 5 24-hour convenience stores that I looked at, which go from Chillum to Mount Rainier to Cheverly to Capitol Heights. On average, there's 22 calls for police service there during the year, 6 resulting in a police report, and that reports go from something minor, from disorderly shoplifting, all the way up to a robbery and carjacking. So, and that seems to be where the criminal activity, and that's only between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m. Didn't count any other, just the midnight to 6 a.m. hours of those figures that I discussed. And most of the criminal activity is at the 24-hour establishments. But As the chief, I thought we needed to look at it a little further, and that's what brought us to this.
Okay, thank you for that overview, Chief. I will also mention that we discovered in this conversation that the agreement that IHOP had made was I'm gonna call the word flat agreement with IHOP. And it wasn't something that was established within an ordinance. And that prompted us to say we need to do something more. Mr. Barr, you want to talk to the section 7-108, if you can be as brief as possible so we can allow for the comments from the public. Mr. Barr, you are there.
Sorry,
you go.
Mayor. I did have one question for the chief. I'm having trouble hearing here. Chief Stone, is it your belief that it's necessary to regulate the hours of operation and closures of businesses and commercial establishments to which the public's invited in the town in order to curtail crime, noise, inconvenience, disturbance, and public nuisance?
Yes.
To protect the health, safety, and welfare of the employees of these businesses, the patrons of these businesses, the establishments, and the residents of the town?
Yes, sir.
It is. Okay. Mayor, this ordinance resulted from a determination and a decision on the part of the elected officials of the town to review the operating hours of businesses in the town. As you said, we have two businesses that at one time operated on a 24/7 basis, and that was the IHOP and the McDonald's. That IHOP did this on the basis that they would always have a security officer available when they were open on overnight hours, and that McDonald's followed a similar pattern. It's my opinion, after reviewing ordinances in our neighboring municipalities, Mount Rainier, Hyattsville, and others, College Park, that control of hours of operation is an important thing for the safety and security of the town, its visitors, and its businesses. And with that, I believe that we can successfully defend this ordinance.
Okay, and specifically, this ordinance is related to the hours of 12:01 a.m. to 5:59. I'm sorry, yes, 12:01 a.m. to 5:59 a.m. And if I summarize this correctly, if someone wants to open 24 hours, they're going to have to submit an application for approval. But this also does establish that in any case, whether or not an application is accepted, that we will also, that if an application is accepted, that a Maryland certified police officer must be on duty during these hours, unless the establishment is a drive-through. So that would also include even a walk-up, because a drive-through implies a person is not getting out their car, they're moving on, where a walk-up is a circumstance where the person is now in our town who may not normally be in our town, and also cause a lot more physical walking at night, which creates a more dangerous scenario. Council members, from your understanding, is there anyone who would like to add something before we open it to public comment? Okay, we're going to open this up to any public comment. If you could just state your name, the area that the 100 block of the street that you live on, you can be recognized.
My name,
What's your name?
this is Julianne Bethay. I live
Okay.
in Ward 3, between 42nd and 43rd on Monroe Street. I am not in favor of a 24-hour ordinance at this time. I think it lends to putting the citizens at risk for the increased amount of crime that can occur at that time between midnight and 6. One, number two, the buffer zone is not clearly demarcated on Newark so that you have that traffic that walks directly into town. Three, I've been in this town for over 50 years. Even when Jerry Hot Dog Stand was down on that end, it was a truck stop. It was not 24 hours. You had a restaurant nightclub down there, Burt Motley. It was not 24 hours. It had a closing time of 10 to 12 on weekdays, and weekends it was closed no later than 1 or 2. With that, I don't see the benefit of 24-hour timing for the convenience store or store, because it just increases the opportunity for crime.
Thank you for that. Which
And the
I
other,
will just to make sure I'll offer some clarification to the statement. The 24-hour ordinance is to allow us to limit it. Right now, we don't have any ability. If Prince George's County says that they can be open 24 hours, or they're not limited by their permit from Prince George's County, if we don't have an ordinance in place, we don't have any control. This is intended to give us control. It is not really intended to make it so we have 24 hours. It's to give us control over someone who comes in who wants to be 24 hours. So that's the purpose of the ordinance, is to give us control.
okay, so even for your future establishments, it also depends on what type of establishment, because if you say 24-hour with limited access, you still have that foot traffic coming into town, and 24-hour establishments that look to the future of being 24 hours want to be 24 hours, 7 days a week, not just on the weekends, because that does not lend to their profitability. So I would still say, yes, you may need control within the town with an ordinance. How much pushback are you going to get with companies going to come in or wishing to come in to have 24 hours, 7 days a week? So that's a consideration that may be needed to address in your ordinance.
Okay. And I'll just read what it says, just to get help there. It shall be unlawful for any person or business entity to operate or cause to be operated any retail or service establishment as defined in 7-108, which is pretty much everything except for a drive-through restaurant, herein between the hours of 12 a.m. and 5:59, unless a 24-hour operation permit is approved by the Mayor and Town Council. Should a retail or service establishment wish to open 24 hours a day, an annual permit may be issued upon application to and approval by the Mayor and Town Council. In any case, a Maryland certified police officer must be on duty during these hours unless the establishment is a drive-through. So we've made it unlawful to do 24 hours, but we just opened a little door that in case someone can ensure to us that they're dealing with exactly the issues that you brought up, that we were able to say no. So that if that's the way it's written, it's intended to start out as it's unlawful, and then we'll move forward from there. So your comment is well taken in terms of the intent, is where we're going with this. Other comments?
Yes, good evening. My name is Deborah Williams, and I am on Newark Road, almost directly behind the old car wash, and I'm in agreement with what Ms. Bethea said. I've been a resident here for many years, over 20 years. And the type of foot traffic that I've seen down during the years, as a matter of fact, it's been over 30 years, but you know, and the activity that has taken place, we're smack dab in the middle of it, if you will. We can see things as far as, even particularly since there's no fence there, what is going on across the street on Bladensburg Road, all of the activity that has taken place. So I am one who is in agreement with closing, not having the ability. I don't even think that it should, now this is me, but I don't think that there should even be a need to have 24-hour establishments so closely related or so close nearby the residents, because you do a stone's throw and you're in the residence environment, whether it would be 42nd down to 43rd or closer in between some of the side streets. But we are in direct conflict with whatever is taking place there. So I would agree not to even, you know, even have that ability to have a 24-hour or the capability of having a 24-hour establishment at all, not even having a door. Because if you open up a little area, then something else will take place. And that's just my thoughts on that.
Okay, I thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Anyone else? I actually see a couple of commissioners from Cottage City online, and of course, you know, your neighborhood affects our neighborhood affects your neighborhood, and we actually have Commission Chair Wheatley, and I see Commissioner Ann Young. You guys have any comments in relationship that you'd just like to share?
Good evening, I'm sorry, Mayor Barrow. No, this is Commissioner Chair Wheatley. I don't have any comments at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, anybody else have any comments? Okay, council members, do you have any comments?
I do. This is Councilmember Melinda Mendoza. Yeah, of course. And when you hear of a tobacco facility opening up in our town, it's like it's already what do we need that for? And then for something to be there 24 hours, for me, it's just, I mean, if we're supposed to be sustainable, this is like going backwards. Like, what are we doing? So yeah, I'm not for 24 hours. I mean, I understand it's a business owner. Hey, it's your business, but just 24 hours. No, I'm not with it.
And any other council members? Okay, Councilmember Bowles.
Bowles, yes, good evening. This is Councilmember Bowles. I can speak as a council member, but also as a resident who lives just 2 doors down from the McDonald's. That frankly, even a drive-through is problematic because we seem to have moved forward in time to a time when people don't seem to think that they should need to turn their radios down at 3 in the morning. So even the 24-hour drive-through, there are times when that wakes me up because in fact, I'm in favor of the McDonald's putting up a sign that says, turn your radio down, because honestly, and the Burger King too. I think the thing that we're reckoning with here is that unlike many towns where our business strip might be separated from our residents, in our town, they are intermingled. We are one and the same. And Newark Road is basically our main street, but our main street has businesses on one side and our homes on the other. So I would just add my voice to the chorus of people who are against 24-hour operation with or without security guard, with the obvious exception of IHOP.
Okay. I will add that I am completely and 100% agreement with all of you guys against the 24-hour operations, especially when that 24-hour operation is also connected with some other limiting service, such as tobacco. Which is why we introduced this ordinance. Because at this point in time, we don't have a way to say no. And if we just say no completely, then that kicks out the IHOP and it kicks out the McDonald's. But what this does do, even with the McDonald's and the IHOP, is it requires that they yearly have to come back to us for an application. So if we're hearing loud music in the McDonald's and that's a condition of their 24-hour time period when they do have the drive-through, we've gained control of doing something about it. So this ordinance is basically starting in section 7-109, calling it unlawful. And then it moves on to say, you know what, but if we have a little opening of something that seems reasonable and it makes sense and you can follow some conditions that we put to say that you need to do this, that, and the other, we're now in control of that scenario. So I think I'm hearing people looking at this ordinance in the opposite direction of which it's doing. It's trying to stop it. and that's the way it's written, is to stop it, stop the activity. Or at least, well, stop it if we want it stopped. And then if it's something that we're like, okay, we can go ahead and go with that, then we have some ability to put some control over it. Anybody have any other comments? Well,
Sadara, I don't know if you're entertaining comments from everybody else or just the council.
No, this is a public meeting. This is a public forum, so I just moved on to the council because I hadn't heard any more from the public.
Okay,
So
good
go
evening.
ahead, identify yourself.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Rufus Lusk. I'm one of the partners in the Burger King and the shopping center. And Mr. Bowles, I heard what you said. I think our Burger King closes at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock. I'll look into that. I know we're not open all night, but just a couple things. We don't like cigarettes. We sell them still at Compare, but that's their decision. We stopped selling cigarettes at CVS, I think 5 years ago, and we're into selling healthy things. And hopefully we'll soon have the vaccine there too, which is going to be great. I can hardly wait. I'm sure that everybody feels that way. As the mayor may have said, I think we did a deal, that is my tenant Donnie and Romana at the IHOP did a deal with the town maybe 12 years ago. Maybe you've referenced that already. So I came in a little bit late, sorry. To have security there at the IHOP Friday and Saturday nights with 24-hour service. They're not doing that now, obviously, but when the pandemic ends, that'll start again. And I think that's worked out very, very well. That's my only comment.
Okay, I have a comment. This is to Officer Stone. How much criminal activity have we seen with the IHOP open on the weekends? This is Julianne Bethay again, because you got two separate entities in the town. You have the IHOP at one end, and then you have the McDonald's down midway at the other end. So you have a gap there. So what I like to know is what has been the criminal activity with the 24-hour opening affecting our town specifically, because we're on that corridor.
Yeah, I looked closely at all of Bladensburg Road. 2020 kind of doesn't count. There's almost no activity.
Okay, that's the pandemic.
And IHOP has not been open. At 2019, and this is from memory, I don't have the specifics in front of me, there were a couple, like a disorderly call, that type of incident, one or two at each establishment for the entire year of 2019. No robberies or serious incidents like shooting, stabbings, anything like that.
And that's with the security officer present.
I'd say I'd have to look closer, but I believe so. I believe they were on weekends with security there, but I'd have to go back and look at it a little closer.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. All right, anybody else have any other comments? Okay. Well, I thank you all for attending and everything that we've heard and what's been said. And I just want to reiterate that I'm on the same page in terms of my concerns about anything that's 24 hours. And so we're trying to create an environment where we control and we have the ability to say no. We're already saying no unless you can prove to us you should be a yes. And that should be a hard prove. So I thank you all very much. And
Mayor,
oh,
good evening.
okay.
This is Yolanda Barnett. I was having a hard time for unmuting and muting. But anyway, good evening, everyone. I have two things to say. With the document under section 7-109, the hours of operation. Second to the first paragraph, the second to the last line, it should say certified police officer. It says certified police office.
That's a great catch.
Almost towards the end of the paragraph, the second line before you get to the end.
I see it. Thank you for that.
Okay, and I just wanted to add, Commissioner, someone said Commissioner, so that's in my head. Councilmember Bo spoke about the noise from McDonald's. He lives 3 houses in. I live 1 house behind McDonald's, and I can hear the orders. And sometimes it does get loud. So that should be something to be consider when they come back for a renewal of their license or their annual permit, that should be a conversation. And that's what I'm requesting. And secondly, the fine that's in this ordinance of only $1,000 is, some businesses will pay that $1,000. I think it should be steeper than $1,000, and that will surely discourage them from breaking this, from violating this particular ordinance. $1,000 to some business is worth it, especially if they're making some good money. They will pay that, and I think it should be higher than $1,000.
Well, that's a good point. And I do want to state that that passing this ordinance will allow us to make those conditions on McDonald's that you spoke of. So that's a really great point.
Mayor, can I just sort of piggyback on what was just said as a fellow landlord to the McDonald's piece? I think if you're concerned about that, the noise at McDonald's or at my restaurant at Burger King, if I would encourage you to write a letter, to McDonald's and to the landlord, and certainly communicate to me if it's a problem at the Burger King. And not just wait for renewal, but do it now. I mean, we in the business community want to be good citizens, and we'd much rather have people hear from the ordering line when they're in the line, and not trying to get to sleep. That doesn't make for good community relations. So I encourage you to to speak sooner than later, and let the businesses know that whatever the problems are, because if you don't speak to us, we don't know what they are.
That's a great point, and I want to thank you for saying that. And I'm pretty sure, that's the direction that we'll go in no matter what, is to always try to get a business to do something without it having to be forcing it by law. But we do need to have the laws in place that are necessary in case we need them. So, and also these public hearings are good for that. I don't live on Newark Road to hear the McDonald's on the weekend at night. And by the way, Mr. Lusk, the Burger King is not open 24 hours.
Right.
At any point in time.
I just don't know whether we closed at 11 or 10 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really good to have this hearing to hear from those people who are closest to that environment and actually hearing that and just hearing that is useful information for us to make some sort of action. Councilmember Bowles?
Yes, I seem to have caused a small hurricane in the room. I apologize, Mr. Lusk. I do know that your Burger King is not open 24 hours a day. And
No problem, no problem.
it is a gorgeous new Burger King, so let me compliment you there. The behavior that I'm describing is not caused by the business community. I think it's caused by, there seems to be a change in our community, and noise and the disrespect of neighbors with noise and from cars and homes it's an issue we've been talking about for some time. So it has come from Burger King, but that's in the middle of the day and it's not your fault, but it's the cars in there that are doing it. So again, I'll throw it in there. Maybe we can write a letter, but if there's, maybe it's just a matter of some signage in our drive-throughs that say, please turn your radio down, or, you're in a neighborhood or whatever. But then I have another question, Mayor, with regard to the document itself, and this may be for Mr. Barr. The latest version of the document that I have, the fourth whereas and section 2, though they start slightly differently, they seem to be identical. Is there a legal reason that same wording needs to be repeated, or is that an unintended redundancy? Does everyone see that?
Councilmember, where are you referring to?
Yes, sir, Mr. Barr. It's in the latest version of the ordinance I have, the fourth whereas.
Yes,
Says,
sir.
whereas that pursuant to the authority contained in section 307 and forward from there. And then if you turn over under 7110, it says section 2. Now it says be it further enacted, but then the text thereafter is identical, I believe, to the fourth whereas. And so my question is that an unintended redundancy, or is there
No.
a legal reason that needs to be stated twice?
Needs to be stated twice. One is a whereas, it's a reason for, and the second, this is an emergency ordinance, and this is a statement of the emergency
Got you. Thank you for that
that you're
clarity.
adopting. So that if we have to defend why we adopted this as an emergency, we now have a statement of the emergency.
I understand. Thank you for that clarity.
Thank you for asking.
All right, and thank you all. Is there any, I see something in the chat here. What is that? Oh, thank you, Chief. Okay, is there any additional? Who's my other chief on the line? Just so I have, because it just says Chief iPhone.
It's Chief Ayers.
Oh, Chief Ayers, I couldn't recognize you in that little teeny block.
No problem. No, I think it's
Yes.
a great ordinance. The only concern I have is a reference to the tobacco sale for our youth. I know we had the same situation over at Capitol Heights when I was a chief over there. We had a tobacco store come into our shopping center. And the problem we had was they had one small area where it had potato chips and it had a soda machine, but everything else was 21 or older items. And what we did over in Capitol Heights is we forced them to put signs up saying that no one under the age of 21 can come into the establishment unless they're chaperoned by an adult. So I'm just checking to see if we had the same concerns over there, that they have just small areas of items that they can sell to underage people that kind of attracts them in there, because we were having a problem with that where people walk into that establishment and nothing in there is for use at all. But they were inside that store and using that excuse as the potato chips are there and the soda machine. So it's something you need to look into so that won't happen over in Colmar Manor.
Yeah, and I thank you for that comment, which offers me the chance to say, so this ordinance right here, where we were totally focused on the emergency of the 24-hour situation, but we have already started conversations in talking about our business license ordinance to put some more teeth into business license ordinance, which would require that the establishment lets us see a copy of their UNO, that we are aware of what did they agree to with the county when so that we're able to follow up, that they're following whatever agreements, because the county doesn't necessarily come back and check and see what's going on after they give them the license. That could be do with lighting on the building, as well as a sign, a lit sign in the window. Was that approved up front by the county? So we are working on the business license itself so that we can put teeth into it and say things like, if there's the 20, if you have a tobacco product, that you have to check that somebody's 21 and up. So we're working on that, our business license in relationship to that as well. And so I can really appreciate the statement.
Yeah, but other than that, I believe that's a great segue to the ordinance. I believe the ordinance is sound. I like the way you have the option to actually allow some business come in, because we have two businesses over in Carter City that 24 hours, which are locksmith and our tire place. But like I said, it's for emergencies only. But I like the way you have the option that if you have a business that needs to have the operations of work, have some way to compromise with them. But other than that, I think it's a sound ordinance, and I think it should be improved.
Thank you. You also have a gas station. So
yeah, yes, we do.
Right. And you can see how this can help you in even how all they operate.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mayor, may I say one other thing? Councilmember Bowles, thank you so much for commenting on our new Burger King. Very proud of it. But nobody's been able to actually go inside. It's just been drive through and carry out. One of these days, the pandemic is going to end, and I hope you'll go inside. And if you go inside, you'll see that there's a beautiful picture celebrating the Battle of Bladensburg, which really should be called the Battle of Colmar Manor. And it's right there in the Burger King. It's the only Burger King in the world that has a picture celebrating the Battle of Bladensburg inside of it. But we're very, very proud of that. And I guess everybody noticed that the Battle of Bladensburg has been referenced a lot recently. That was the last time the capital was invaded in 1814. So they could have gone a little deeper into the history and gotten some reporters out on the battlefield. It's very, very interesting. So thanks, everybody.
All right. Well, thank you for that. However, they do let people go in. They just can't sit. They can go in for pickup. So it is beautiful inside. I have seen inside. All right. I'm going to transition out of this meeting. I want to thank everybody for your comments. Mr. Barr, you were making a comment?
Mayor John Barr.
Yes.
Just for former council member Barrett's remark about the $1,000 fine. That is the maximum that the town is permitted to assess for violations of its ordinances as provided in the Maryland Code. And that's why I didn't choose a higher number.
Okay, so former council member Bartlett, now we know that we may have to lobby the state in order to adjust that kind of a fine. Because we do follow within the state's the state of Maryland's requirements of us.
Yeah, that I think would be an MML issue.
Yeah,
this is Yolanda Barnett. Mr. Barr, this is Yolanda Barnett. What if they violate the ordinance more than once?
Well, every violation of the ordinance is a new situation, but the courts don't look kindly on you charging somebody for violating an ordinance 31 days in a row, 31 times. They're only going to enforce it once. That's my experience.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any new? Okay, I thank you all for coming in on the hearing and having this conversation, and everything that anybody said has been very valuable. So we are going to transition into our next meeting. I am going to change rooms. So it's going to take me a couple of minutes just to move my computer around. So if you bear with me, we need to first come out of this this hearing about the ordinance 2101 at 7:58. Is there a motion for us to adjourn this hearing?
I'll make that motion as stated, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Irina Hobbs.
Any objection? Oh, hearing none, this hearing is now adjourned. I will check back with you guys in about 3 or 4 minutes, and we will move on to our regular town meeting.